Hi, and welcome to our Friday webinar. We are back with Lisa Bono. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi.
and her gray crew. So as you can see from Lisa's background, we're going to be talking about managing a multi-flock household. Lisa's going to give her tips on her, let's see, your day in and your day out with a bunch of birds.
Right.
So yeah, this will be an interesting topic, because I'm sure a lot of our participants might have more than one bird, or might be thinking about adding to the flock, or so many scenarios. So these are probably some good takeaways that we will have today. How is everyone doing in your area there? They're all kind of looking at the camera. I think you guys are frozen, actually. Let's see. Anybody there? All right, we're going to wait for Lisa's connection. Your connection is a little frozen right now, which is cool, but hopefully it'll come back soon. And just a reminder to everybody who's joining us that if you have a question for Lisa, to use the Q&A button, not the chat button. Oh, we lost Lisa for a second. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, so, oh, there we go. Is Lisa coming back? You're back. You just got to unmute. All right, you just got to unmute it, and then there we go. Okay. And ironically, I have like a gardener outside my window right now as we speak. So this is what live webinars are all about, right? We got to overcome.
Right.
All right. So so we were just talking earlier about the raise hand feature. I want to see this thing light up. How many of our participants have more than one bird? Like hit raise your hand. Oh, wow, yeah.
Okay.
Going. There we go. Oh, it's going down. People, wait. How's that working? That was interesting. Okay. Well, at least 18. I'm going to guess more than that. But there we go. Oh, wait, 19. So, Lisa, I think you have another, I love that you give us a PowerPoint presentation so we can have some visual takeaways.
Yes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out actually talking a little bit about my history and how I got into birds. I know quite a few people have asked about that. And then, get into the question and answer, and hopefully people will want to see some kind of demonstrations and, have some more personal stuff they might want to get into.
I'm gonna let you do your share screen, and I'm gonna mute my mic until the noise outside my window dissipates a little bit to not interrupt this. Okay.
All right.
So take it away.
Sounds good. Okay, one more second. Okay, thank you everybody for joining in and being part of this. This is the part 12 of the Grayway series. We're going to be talking about numbers and managing multi-bird households, and as requested, a little bit about me. So we'll start out with a little bit about me and how I became so interested in birds and grays, and why I like to share my knowledge. So we're going to start out. When I was 8 years old, I was given my first budgie. We had dogs and cats, and unfortunately found out that I was very sick and I was allergic to dogs and cats. So we did have poodles. We were able to keep them, but unfortunately we had to find some homes for our cats. And because we moved around a lot when I was young, it was very hard to make friends, because once you got used to a school system, we were moving again. So one day my mother decided to take me to a pet store, and she wanted me to, pick out a little bird, and I did, and this whole thing is her fault. So we started out with a little yellow parakeet named Tweety, and what I did not know is that Tweety was actually the same age I was when we bought her. The store owner wanted me to pick another bird, and I wanted the yellow one because my favorite little cartoon character was obviously Tweety. So he caught the bird in the nest, made a big deal out of it. We brought Tweety home, and Tweety jumped up on my finger, and right away at 8 years old, I thought I was the bird whisperer. We started getting a few more parakeets, and I quickly realized I was not. So like with most people, my life with birds started out with a tiny little parakeet named Tweety. And these are pictures that are over 40 years old, some of them. So you can see the quality isn't going to be that good. And of course, I'm not a very good photographer at that age. So these are my guys. There's proof I lived in a log cabin. That's how I grew up. And you could see that at that time, the birds were, you know, I allowed them because I didn't know better to chew on the woodwork. You could see that at the top right corner. These are some more of my little guys. I believe I ended up like with 12 parakeets. I was not the normal kid. I didn't order Team Beat or anything like that with my allowance money. I ordered Bird Talk. So I actually had Bird Talk through the 30 years that it was going on, with the hope someday that I would be able to fight for them. So the picture of me there is probably about 15 years old. And I am, you know, I would ask for new cages for my birthday. I was completely different than most of my friends. Then I also had some canaries. People don't realize that about me. And these canaries were actually friendly. They were finger tamed. And I did not know that all canaries were not like this. So this is actually Doodles and Dee. And again, this is when we were starting out. We've since found out that the bigger cages are better. I was probably maybe 13, 14 years old in this area. And I still have that stuffed bird, Tweety bird up there. So back then, in ancient times, we didn't have play stands. We didn't have a lot of things that are available now. So I actually made my own play stand, and it was pretty cool to look through all my photos and actually go back to these times in my mind. So I remember the little baskets under the birds, and the little play gyms. And this was actually just a shelf I covered with paper towel. My father absolutely loved me because I was always poking holes in his ceiling. And you could see from the birds there, you have your parakeets and you have your canaries all playing together. And I would put things in the ceiling, I would hang them below, and they pretty much had free roam of my little room. In fact, I would hang these little mirrors and such up on my curtains. Again, my father was very thrilled with me. My father raised me, so, you know, he always had to clean up the mess. This was my first cockatiel, that's Sidley. And this is probably my favorite second species are cockatiels. And I had cockatiels for 25 years. My oldest parakeet lived to be 18, which was Tweety. And my oldest cockatiel lived to be 25 or 27. So I started out, and these were some of my cockatiels, and we quickly grew to 17 cockatiels. So, you know, I would save up. This was probably somewhere in my late teens. I would save up my money. I would try to upgrade the cages as they come along. And we did as the years gone by. Because I had so many of them, we actually made a cage that was probably 5 feet by 4 feet by 6 feet. And, you know, they had free roam in there. And then as time went on, I decided I want to actually have the cage made for them. And I even raised one group of little cockatiels. So 2 of my cockatiels got a little too friendly, and I co-parented some babies, and they were fantastic. I've also had Amazons. So my favorite Amazon happens to be an orange wing. They're just very docile, very sweet. And that was my first larger bird. And she was a female. She was sort of neglected before I got her. It was a client of mine, and I did my client's nails for years, and I had no idea she even had a bird. It was never mentioned. And then one day she asked me if I wanted to take the bird because it lived in the closet, and I took the bird. With that said, I also had a double yellowhead named Harley, and you could see his 2 pictures on the bottom. You could see the little excited picture on the left and him being all nice on the right. And up in the corner, you're going to see a blue front. That was also one of my birds. That is Madden. Now, Madden ended up going and staying with a friend of mine. He was much happier in that environment than he was in mine. The other two Amazons, all my parakeets, all my cockatiels lived out their entire life in my home. And then all of a sudden, this little guy came along and piqued my interest in African grays. He was another bird that came through a club that I founded. And he needed a home, and he was supposedly feisty and biting. And I would say out of all the cases I've dealt with rehomes and rescues, this was probably the most abused case. So needless to say, I was pretty afraid of this bird from the description that they gave me when he first came into my house, but I quickly found out he was such a sweetheart. These are just random pictures of, us, interacting with the birds. I've had a couple photographers come in and take some nice pictures for magazines and such like that. In the top left corner, you're going to see my husband. We do have a Kaik as well. I don't often have him out in the same room with the grays because even though I don't think they would hurt him, when he flies, they all snap in the air like he's a little bug. So it's really just, caution that, he's really kept at a safe distance. So as you can see from my pictures, I've always had multi-species households, probably since I was about 10. So that would be the early 70s. So the top left corner, you're going to see that before you jump on me about the size of the cages, you have to take into consideration the years that this was taken. That was probably the late 80s, early 90s, and we didn't have access to big cages. I was only in my early 20s. I certainly didn't have the money for them. A lot of these birds were rehome and rescues. And as time went on and cages were manufactured and came down in prices, we certainly upgraded them all, as you can tell from how they live now. But you can see the one cockatiel cage I had made. There was a bunch of cockatiels in there, and that's one of the first California cages that came out. I met them at a show. They did a great job. It was expensive, especially for somebody so young, and eventually we moved them all over. But that was my crew. So at the top, you have the cockatiels. You have, in the small cage, a couple disabled cockatiels. You have two Amazons in that picture. One, you can't see the cage at all. And then you have an African gray. So here's me interacting with some of my birds and trying to get them to bathe, because that's important for all of them. So top left, it's going to be me, probably again, about 15, 16 years old, getting my cockatiels to take a bath. You'll see the double yellow in the top right corner, and that's Harley I was with the vacuum cleaner, engaging him. And then the little Amazon, the little orange wing, the only way she would take a bath is if we went outside and stood in the rain. So it would be raining like crazy, and I would be out there with her getting soaking wet, and you can see that in my hair, getting wet, and she's taking a bath. One thing I did, I started a bird club when I was 21, and I got to meet a lot of fantastic people through the club. And one of the things we did is we went to schools, and we did a lot of outreach. We went to Boy Scouts, Girl Scout things, and we took the birds in and we taught them all about the rainforest and where the birds were from, and tried to engage the kids to, maybe want to become an avian vet, or, at least be a wonderful caretaker. So that was a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. And then you can see by the look on my face, this is where the love of grays really started. So that's Emma, I'm giving her a little belly kiss, and that is Sydney up on his Boeing, and Sterling's on the other Boeing behind me. Now, this is one of the houses that we lived in, and it was a pretty small house. You're looking at their PlayStations. That's all I had room for. And it did for the, it worked well for what we had. The birds enjoyed them. They were all able to have their own spot. You see, they're pretty far away from each other. And so there's really no reason for a bird not to be able to have a play area, because this house was under 600 square feet. And I was still able to have stations for the birds to sit on, enjoy, and play. So now managing a multi-bird household. You can see from this picture, everybody has their own everything, okay? You can see by the trees, they're kind of moved apart. Now for this picture, I do have the 2 trees in the middle that are closer, but that was strictly for the picture. I wanted to try to get everything in there. Usually they are pulled apart, as you'll see from other pictures in here, because you have Sterling, who's on the tree in the middle, and you have Abby and the tree in the middle on the right. And Sterling really thinks that Abby's cute. So we try to keep them a little separated because Sterling is a little bit too aggressive and Abby is just a little bit too willing. So we don't need any babies. We don't need any accidents. So to keep everybody safe, we keep them apart. One thing I have found out is the bird that's on the stand all the way to the left, that is Sydney. He's a little bit more aggressive. I'm not really sure why. He might have been dropped on his head as a baby. I'm not sure why he is the more aggressive one out of everybody, but he tends to be kept off to the side so he doesn't fly and attack, because he has done that in the past. So I've had him fully flighted to keep everybody safe. We did a baby clip. He is now fully flighted again. I don't think he realizes he can take off, but it's healthier for them to be able to fly if they can. And we're going to talk about exercise in an upcoming webinar. But he's usually off to the side so he can't easily get to everybody else. I have noticed with the girls that are all going to be to the right side of the photo, they are okay to be together, to eat together, to wander on each other's tree, as long as no one goes on Emma's tree, because Emma, for whatever reason, doesn't deal with that, and she'll pull feathers and everybody runs like a bunch of chickens. So how did I get into loving grays over every other species? I mean, I've lived with just about every species with the exception of an eclectus and a macaw. So you kind of, going through the years, you find out which ones you kind of mesh with and which ones you really enjoy being around. And my deal is I don't have children, so I wanted something that was going to interact with me a lot. Maybe, you know, vocal, if they did, that was a plus. And I got my little Sam, my Samson Bell. Unfortunately, a lot of you know about him. He passed away at a very young age due to aspergillosis. So that really shook me for a loop. If he was still alive, I would probably have him and maybe a couple cockatiels. But because he passed away, I've met quite a few people who have either asked me to take their birds in when they've passed away. I do have my father's bird. We purchased one bird. I have another bird with disabilities. So my guys are all older, but my love of grays really started with my Timneh that I showed you the picture of, and my little baby here that passed away. So as you can see, here we have Emma, and we have Sam, and Abby, and Sterling, and Sydney. And yes, I could tell them all apart, and I'm actually pretty good at being able to tell my friends' grays apart as well. I was pretty good with that with clients when I would go to their house when I was up in New Jersey and bringing food or whatever. I'd be able to tell who was who. They all have their own trees. The boys can't be anywhere near each other. You know, they all have to have, you know, pretty much the same type of toys to keep them busy. You know, one tree can't have 15 toys and one have 2. They all have to have something to keep them busy, to want to stay on their tree. If it's a boring tree, nobody's going to want to stay there. So here's a better picture of how we are every single night. Again, Sydney's all the way to the left, sitting on this tree. Then you have Sterling kind of in the middle because he can't be making eyes at Abby, who was moved over towards the girls. A lot of people ask me how I keep them away from or stop them from chewing on the curtains or the blinds. I simply move them away. If they don't have access to it, they're not going to be able to chew it. Now, if they're up on their cages, they can reach it. And I do have beak marks in the woodwork, and my husband wasn't too thrilled with that. That happened right after we built the room. So, you know, they don't go on their cages. That's not a place that they're on the top when they come out. They get up on my hand, they go to their tree, they're in the middle, they have their own things to chew on. Every once in a while, if I don't move Sydney on the left away from the French doors and the curtains, I've seen him moving the curtains, and he knows he's not supposed to be doing that, because as soon as I say something, he stops and looks at me like it wasn't me. Again, everybody has their own cages. A lot of people will get, different birds, even different species, and they'll want to put them in the same cage. That's not a good idea. Everybody needs their own space, and it's a safer idea. I mean, if you have one of those great big macaw cages with the bars down the middle and you substitute that maybe with plexiglass, that would be okay. The birds can still get their toes around the plexiglass, but you still have to keep an eye on them. But it's better off if everybody has their own everything. Now, this just happened to be the other day when I was outside power washing cages. It took me 3 days to do all their cages. Again, this is their sleep room. You can see in their sleep cages, I had the same exact cages I did when I was in my early 20s. Now, it's not that I would keep a bird in them, but this is their sleep cage, emergency cage, outside cage, and travel cage. So it works well with us. They have enough room to move around, but these, they're far enough away from each other at night where, they're not going to be able to reach feet or, again, Sydney is farther away from Sterling. You can see their names on the wall. Again, to keep him away so he doesn't jump over and try to attack. Sydney thinks he's tough. Sterling is tough. Sterling is wild caught, and he just turned 40. Again, everybody has their own, and to try to prevent any kind of behavior, and I'm not going to say jealousy because I don't want to put a label, but that's the best way for everybody to understand it. Everybody has the same thing. And in that picture, you can see my little Kaik all the way to the right. So through my years, a lot of people ask, well, how did you, learn what you did, or how did you become a consultant? Well, these are some of the awards or certificates I've been given through the years for some of the classwork and casework that I've gone through. I am no longer part of the Association of Avian Veterinarians, but I wanted to have that on there. I'm a past member, and obviously I'm a past member of the New Jersey Ocean County Animal Response Team, because I'm no longer in New Jersey. I am part of South Carolina's Animal Response Team. And that is simply due to when we had Superstorm Sandy, my store was the eye of Superstorm Sandy. Everyone was destroyed around us. I had a lot of people contacting me saying there's a bird in this house that was left behind, a floodwater, we can't find this bird. I didn't have the credentials to get in. I tried my best, but the police stopped me because the roads were just completely closed. So I went for my FEMA certificate. So I would be able to have that little, badge with the animal response team. So this way I could get through those police barricades in case we ever needed that again. The Federation of Agriculture down here, this is a certificate of recognition for what we did with Superstorm Sandy. I've also been able to write some articles for different magazines through the years. Right in the middle, you can see Uniquely Gray, and that was the article that I've always wanted to do since I was young, since I had my first African gray. Remember, I said that I got bird talk from the very beginning. Well, this is 30 years later. I got into the magazine, and that was in the last magazine that they published. I've also been a pet bird host for about.com and lecture and do seminars for clubs and sanctuaries and such. And of course, I'm doing webinars for Lafebers. If I have it covered down here. You can also see at my website, Gray Parrot Consulting, all the different articles and webinars and such. So again, people ask, how did you become a consultant? Well, the one thing that's been consistent since I've been young, I've been willing to learn and make myself better. So I'm not going to get into all these because it's a lot of pages, but these are all the seminars that I've gone to, I've traveled to, I've participated in, and this is how I got my knowledge. Now, you learn everything you can. You might not need all that information, but somebody else you know may. And if you learn it, you're able to share it. And that's important. So as you can see, there's a lot of different seminars I've been to. And I urge everybody, if you have the opportunity, go, learn, take notes, share. We're going to be going over the Phoenix Landing wellness retreat that I went to a few months back. In a few weeks, we're going to be going over that. And I'll kind of give you an idea of the fun you can have, what you learn. And a lot of these are, you know, going to different seminars and lectures like that. You can see all the educational components, again, on my website to show you what classes I've taken. Now, I found this when I was looking through all my pictures yesterday. And I saved this from when I was a child, actually. And the one part that made me save it, and you can go back and review this if you want to read this later. It says, this is about a gentleman who actually was given a parakeet and his little parakeet passed away. And the reason I saved this clipping is it says, this little guy taught me a few things about myself, and I know that I am better for having known him. So that spoke to me, and I kept it. And this is something else. I just posted this on Facebook. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. And that's why I wanted to put it in here. Now, I know it's been asked how many people have different birds in their household. How many people, by raising their hand, have grays that tend to be a little bit, I can't say aggressive, again, that's a label, but you have to watch them a little bit better with your other species? Raise your hand if you have that issue. Okay. Now, I've noticed with my Amazons, my cockatiels, my canaries, it really didn't matter how many I had. Again, I had 12 parakeets, I had 17 cockatiels, I had 3 Amazons, and they didn't seem to be really aggressive. I'm not exactly sure what it is about the grays. I don't know if it's, their intelligence or them being sentient beings. I'm not sure, but they do tend to be a little bit feistier with themselves, their same species and other species. Now, who, by raising your hand again, who has African grays that tend to be a little feisty with each other? You can't trust them. Okay. All right, so we have 9 people, 10 people there. Now, who has African grays that are not breeders that can let their birds play together? Okay, so we have 4, 5. Okay, help me out here. This is for research. Okay, so we had about 10 people that said they can't really have their birds together because they're going to be a little bit feisty. You had 7 people say that their birds can be trusted together. Now, again, how many have boys and girls that get along that are not breeders? Raise your hand. Okay, got 11 people there. Now, how many have same sex species or grays that get along? Well, that surprises me. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so there's about 8 people that say the same sex species. My girls all get along. I really don't have a problem. Emma just thinks, she doesn't want anybody touching her cage, doesn't want anybody, other birds touching her cage, touching her toys. Oh, don't touch her food. But other than that, they can be trusted not to hurt each other. My boys cannot. So we'll have to look into that a little bit more and try to figure out what's going on with these guys that just make them a little bit antisocial, and see if we can figure out a way to get them to behave a little bit better. So I am going to end my little slideshow just like I do with every other one, a little shameless plug. And so we're going to open it up to questions. If you guys need me to do any demonstrations, something specific, just here we are.
All right. I was hoping the outside noise would have been gone by now, so, but it's not. But hopefully
I
you
don't
can
hear it.
Okay, good.
I don't hear
Good,
it.
good. Thank you for the walk down memory lane. With some of the I love the photos, and yeah, that's how we met, through Bird Talk magazine. So you were our gray expert back then, and you're our gray expert now, but also all birds. So that was fun to watch. Yeah.
Yes, you were kind enough to give me a spot to shine.
Yeah, well, you know, you have to go with the right sources. So not everybody gets that opportunity to write about a topic, and you got to know your stuff. So, all right, so here we go. I'm sure we're gonna have some questions for you, and here we go. Ready? Yep. How do you suggest encouraging parrots to be friendly with each other rather than flying to attack one another?
Okay, so what species are we talking about? That kind of comes into play.
True. Let's see if we can get that information.
Yeah, if you have a little bird and a big bird, and the big bird's being, you know, a little bit feisty, I'll use that word, it's best to keep them apart because the little bird's going to lose every time. If you have two that are more docile, say like the male eclectus are a little bit more docile. I found with my female grays a little bit more docile. You may be able to keep them in a little bit closer quarters. But you know, it really depends on the individual, the size, the reason they might be being a little feisty. Is it over food? Is it over toys? Is it over an owner being there? So there's different things that come into play.
Okay, and it's an Amazons and Pioneers parrot. So those are the ones that we're dealing with.
What kind of Amazon? Ooh. And what sex?
Ah, very good follow-up question there, because that can make a difference. Let's see if we can get that. Are we talking male Amazons, female Amazons, Pioneers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pioneers are pretty docile. You have your 3 hot Amazons, which are going to be your blue front, your double yellow, and your yellow nape. And your males are even going to be a little harder to handle.
Okay. And do you recommend? I've heard like a neutral like play gym for them, instead of if you are trying to see if they can interact friendly with each other.
I wouldn't do that right off the bat, and I wouldn't do it around anything that's familiar. I've always been taught if you're going to work with a bird, you work with them in a neutral room where you know they're not used to maybe being, or maybe in the bedroom, away from their cage, away from their so-called, again, I don't like the word territory because there's very few birds that are really territorial. There's really something else going on there besides being territorial. You know, if you start out maybe on the back of 2 chairs in close proximity and watch body language and see how they're behaving, you know, and if you're going to start out, you don't start out with this one little perch, itty bitty little thing. You're going to have a big thing that, you know, they can get away from each other, and you're going to stand there and you're going to watch, and you're going to have your hand right in the middle. So you get bit instead of somebody else, and see how they behave. Even on the best days, if everybody gets together, there's still a chance. Somebody could be in a not good mood. Somebody else can be a little testy, and somebody could end up getting bit.
Okay. And if you're talking size differences, that could be pretty bad, and some
right.
Lost toes I've heard of, and yeah.
Worse.
Yeah. Okay. So someone wanted to ask, did you once say that you use, is it chlorhexidine solution to clean your cages? And which paper are you using at the bottom of your trees? So 2 questions.
I use Vanadine.
Vanadine.
Yes, Vanodine. That's kind of like an old time breeder tool they used to use. again, this is back in probably the early 90s. And what we were told, I had a breeder friend, and he had this great big barn. He had all these birds, and he had like a watering system in it. And I couldn't figure out how you're going to keep this watering system clean. And he told me he puts vanadine in there, and it's diluted, and it was safe if a little bit ended up getting ingested. I'm not saying give the bird the bottle, but that's what he always used to clean. And the poultry industry uses it, the cattle industry uses it. It kills a lot of things. And the reason I started using it is because I lost my Samson bell to aspergillosis. And when I heard that killed aspergillosis, I was all over it. So it's very hard to get now. People, I believe, over in England are able to get it. I bought like a gallon of it, and that's probably going to last me my lifetime. And that was probably 10 years ago. Now you can tell if it's lost its potency by it changing color. You have to keep it in the dark, probably like all those other dynes that I don't know about. But I use a drop or two of that in ivory soap and make a solution. And I wash my hands in it. I wash their cages if I got to do their toys, if I have to do disinfecting. Now, if you have one bird and that bird does not go out, you have a trusted place for your food that is not dealing with a lot of other birds. I see people disinfecting like all the time, and I'm just not sure why they're doing that, because it's not like you're introducing all these different things into your environment. So if you do it once a week, or you do it every other week, if you have one bird, that's one thing. I don't know why people feel the need to do it every day. You're doing your basic cleaning, you're keeping clean. To use chemicals on it, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that.
Okay, and then they asked about the liners on the bottom, like the paper on the bottom of your tree stands. Are you?
Oh yes, actually, I get them on Amazon. It's U-Haul. Well, excuse me. It's packing paper, and it's unprinted newspaper. So they'll use it for when people are moving. They wrap up the dishes and such, and you can get it various places. You can get it at Staples, U-Haul, any place like that. Amazon is just easier because my husband was getting tired of driving to U-Haul to buy it for me and carrying everything. So I order probably 600 pages at a time. And it's not as expensive as you would think. It's a healthier way. You can monitor the poop. See what they're eating, what they're not eating versus say printed newspaper. That's probably going to cost you more, or some kind of bedding. I never sold bedding in my store. I gave people newspaper, but I like the unprinted newspaper so I could watch everything.
And do you layer it so make it easier to roll
I do. I do my main cleaning on Sundays. So what helps me out is Sunday morning, everybody gets their bath and they get their little bowl in their cages on Sunday morning, and then they make a mess all over the walls, the floor, the cage. And it's actually, really breaking up the poop that's on the bars. And then I'll go in, I'll take the bowl out, I'll clean up all the bars, and then I'll pull out all the paper on the bottom. There might be 2 pages left. I'll pull it out, and then I'll layer probably 8 or 9 more pages on top of that. Every day I take 1 layer out. If there's a spot clean I got to do during the week, I do it. I do more spot cleaning on the trees actually than I do on the cages, because I have stainless steel, and it just kind of like falls off the stainless steel, which is nice. So, but I do layer it, and then I do the heavy cleaning once a week, and we kind of gotten that. I've been doing that for years.
Nice. I noticed that my birds always like to bathe after I clean their cage, and I had the fresh paper, and then it's like, oh, now it's bath time. And then you got the wet.
Right. And actually, the last 2 weeks, my guys have, for some reason, have decided, it's probably because it's not sunny, we've had a lot of rain here, they haven't wanted to go in their bowls. So they've been actually going in the shower. And everybody had a shower this morning in anticipation of being on camera.
Nice. So while I wait for our next question, my question to you is, what is the most, your challenge with multiple birds? Would it be the feeding or the cleaning or something else? The most time consuming?
Most times consuming without.
I mean, a deep clean would be.
Yeah, that's going to be the most time consuming, because I just did that, and actually, you know, because we have to unscrew all those little hooks on the cages and the play stands. It took me about 3.5 days from the moment I started removing all their cages, all their toys, to the time I was actually putting them back in. So that's going to be the most time consuming. I actually make I call it mash, because mash has been around for 30 years or something. I usually make their mash and I'll freeze some. So this way I'm not, they are getting their little vegetables and everything else every single night, but I'm not standing by the stove every night and cooking. So that's the way to save time there. I mean, it usually takes me probably about 1.5 hours in the morning, because I have 2 rooms to clean and I have 11 cages to clean, you know, by moving them back and forth. So.
And when you have multiple birds like that, doing individualized diets might be a challenge. Like if they all have really certain, you know, specific food preferences, like one likes this, doesn't like that, are all your birds kind of on the same menu, so to speak?
Yes, my guys are, and I use very different pellets and very good seed blends, okay? Everybody will get, you know, their little concoction that I put together. Can I guarantee everybody's eating everything in there? No, I cannot, but at least it's offered. So one day they might be eating one pellet, the next day they might be eating or choosing a different type of pellet, or the next day a berry, and, you know, the next day a piece of seed. So, you know, it all varies. The only one is I do have some dietary restrictions on Sydney in regards to anything that includes peanuts, anything. I don't care if it's in the mix, put in the mix, made with the mix. He exhibits more anxiety and feather ripping. It's very weird. So to me, he gets very antsy and jittery, and it kind of leads me to think he may have some sort of allergy to that. So when I'm making up like when I go away, I'm making up my little packages of food for my bird sitter to give everybody. Sydney's is clearly marked, no peanuts, no this food, no that food, you know, because I figure if something happens to me and I don't come home, she needs to know what food he cannot have. So, and with Emma with her twisted neck, I don't do any kind of breads or thick stuff like that, because Emma's food actually has to go up her neck, go down her neck. And I've seen her choke one too many times when she first came to my house, which scared me, that I feed everybody the same. So I don't want to give 4 of them bread and her not. So, yeah.
All right. And then someone had to ask a question about your kike. Does your kike want to, or can they interact with the grays and vice versa? Do they mix it up a bit?
They don't, I can't have them within arm's length of each other. Ollie can be out. Ollie's the kike, it's my husband's bird. Ollie can be out. Ollie has his own little cage, his own little tree stand out here. But usually what we'll do is we'll take that tree stand and we'll move it into the living room next to the couch. My bird room is right off my living room. So at any time I'm probably 15 to 20 feet away from the bird room, which has French doors, which, you know, I can feel part of the room. But I'm not going to be able to get close or quick enough into that room if somebody decides to go after the kike. So the kike comes out into the living room with us, keeps them, you know, keeps them safe.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Now another follow-up question. A question I have for you is, so you're close to the bird room, but if one of your birds kind of goes off, like with an alarm call or any kind of contact call, does it kind of set everybody off? Like, do you have now a room of
yes, it does. Abby tends to, yeah, well, Abby tends to be the watchdog of the whole place. So usually if she goes off with an alarm, like she used to be terrified or alarm a lot. So terrified is another label, at squirrels. Because in my old house, she was on the second floor and I had a porch. So the squirrel can get up on the porch and then simply look into her room where she was. So since moving here, she doesn't have that fear. But if say somebody, they don't like my husband's golf cart because he drives around the yard and that, she'll start this high pitched beep. Everybody else stands still, they don't move, okay? If she screams, everybody takes off and they go in all different directions. My first thought is Sydney, I gotta get him before he goes after anybody. So Sydney's the first, grab him, put him back where he's supposed to be. Then I usually go for Emma because she's disabled. I want to make sure she's okay. And then I'll look to see if Sterling's, you know, making dancing moves for Abby. So yeah, there's certain ones I will go to immediately because I know what they're capable of.
Okay, so you know your flock inside now. And then someone wanted to know what is the advantage of moving your birds into separate sleep cages at night? So what purpose is that?
Well, in my house, this room here is all windows. There's very little wall space. The sun comes up on that side. So the reason they have their own sleep room is because we have a basement underneath here, and then we have the floors, so it's harder to keep the floors warm in the winter. There are so many windows, it's harder to keep it warm in here in the winter. And then again, my living room is right off of here. My husband gets up 5 o'clock in the morning. He'll be on his computer, he'll have a TV on, and then those shadows and those sounds are gonna keep the birds awake. And then the sun come up, they're just not getting enough sleep and I cannot control the environment.
Okay, so sleep cage is a way to kind of give your bird the blackout room that you might like seek out and get a good night's sleep, right? Right. Because typically most households are up past a bird's typical bedtime, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I am up, I could be up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And, you know, just I have a real hard time sleeping. So, you know, I don't want to be out there and have them seeing all the shadows and lights. And then an hour and a half later, my husband getting up with different shadows and lights. So in there, you know, I can keep it quiet. It's on the end of the house. It's in another bedroom. It's got carpeting, which is not as easy to keep clean, but it keeps it warmer. Less windows, I can keep it darker. You know, I have a baby monitor in there and the other end in my bedroom, so I can hear what's going on at night, make sure, you know, nobody's freaking out. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. And then someone wanted to know, I had a comment and then a question. So they say that there's a fair amount of information about introducing birds, but they can't find as much information about how to help birds when the flock loses a member. So kind of, yeah, how do you deal with that? How do you address that?
I actually wrote an article. It's called Helping Your Gray Through Grief. And I think that's an important read for anybody who has, you know, a bird that's passed away with the flock, because I do believe the birds grieve just as much as we do. And if say you're taking them out and you're going to the vet and they don't come home, you don't want the bird to think that leaving the safeness of their environment means they're not going to come back. I've actually sat down and had talks with mine. I've showed them pictures. I had one, my African gray Otis, who passed away. He was in my bird room and he was not doing well. And I called my vet to see if I should be taking him in to, you know, ease the pain. He had a couple strokes. And from the description I gave, they said that he's not going to make it through the night. So what I did is, you know, I took him around and showed him everybody in the room. And I said, okay, now we're going to go into the other room, because I didn't know how he was going to act as he was passing away. So we took his cage into the other room and I sat there with him, and it wasn't even a couple minutes and he passed away. Yeah, so, and then I never bring a cage back in the room. The cage gets, you know, taken apart as soon as possible, not in the bird's view. But yeah, the article I wrote, I mean, I'm happy to share it, but it's definitely gives some people, you know, because the birds grieve their past owners, they'll grieve their own flock mates. And I don't think we give them enough credit for that and try to understand what's going on in their little head.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wow. Okay. And then someone had a question. They said that they believe your birds are flighted, right?
Yes.
They want to know how you keep them going from going at each other's trees and or flying around. So
they have so much stuff to do on their trees. Right now, I think everybody looks like they're just about napping.
Yeah.
Emma with her head on upside down. As long as there's stuff to do on their own trees, there's really no reason for them to leave and go on another tree. Now, if you have a bird that is aggressive, like my Sydney, you know, his main goal of the day might be to fly over there and bite somebody. So that's why he had a baby clip. Actually, it was a new clipping that I saw that I did on him, and that kind of, it didn't ground him. That's not the goal. The goal is to make it just a little harder for him to get where he's going, to not make it worth his while. You know, I'll have a lot of people contact me with Amazons, and their Amazon is flying at people and attacking them, and, you know, they can't keep them on the cage, and, you know, they want to get rid of the bird, and we work through it. And I say, do that little baby clip. And once the bird realizes it's not that easy to get over there and bite you, he might find something better to do.
There you go. So if one of yours, like, say, flies off the gym or the cage top, did like others just kind of join in the fray? Do they all kind of, does it spark up?
Nope, they don't. They'll sit there and look and say, oh, look at that one down there. Because my guys don't go on the floor. So if they get on the floor, they usually just stand there and stare at you like, I'm not supposed to be here, come get me. Sterling, if he does get down, he'll run and he'll hop like a rabbit until he gets tired, because, you know, I'm usually trying to get him on my hand. But that might be 1 out of 5 times. The other guys will just stand there. They don't even try to walk back to the tree. They just stand there and wait for me.
It's another question about cockatiels. Cockatiels, they have 7 of their own and 4 foster teals. The youngest foster is a male, but is a bit rude in that he likes to move the others off the spot that he wants. Ah, a bossy cockatiel. There you go. Every bird that is in his way gets run off to another spot, and they want to stop this behavior. So you got the bossy teal pushing everybody around. What do you suggest?
Boys can be a little bit bossy. They do a lot of display with their beak open, and I call it complaining a lot towards the other birds. What you might want to do is put another perch right around that area, if you're able, to give him his own little spot versus running everybody off the other spot. Or if he does run them off, they can have their own spot. So then they'll opt for another perch.
Okay.
So same area, you know, maybe same side of the cage, or, you know, just 2 of them instead of 1.
Double it up. Someone says their male gray just died, and they're now getting 2 male grays from different sources. One gray is only a little over 4 months, and the second is about 14 months. So we're talking like a 10-month differential here. They're not sure what to expect exactly. So do you have any concerns or suggestions for them? So they're bringing 2 grays together who are coming from different sources in a slight age gap.
Okay. Your younger one is going to be pretty much an empty shell, and not really, I don't think he's going to be aggressive in any way. They usually are not, because they don't know what they're doing, and they're usually, you know, very cautious. The 14th-month-old is just getting into that little feisty stage, so he might try to boss the other one around. So you want to introduce them slowly. Again, you don't know if you have 2 males. You don't know. Well, yeah, I guess you do. 2 males. I would watch them. They might grow up to be great buddies, but when they first come in, maybe have 2 chairs. Like I said, put them on the back of the chairs, like I have here, and watch them, see how they're interacting. The older one might have a great disposition and not really care, and it might be fine. But you do have to watch the body language, and you do have to make sure they're at ease with each other before they're near each other. And more importantly, make sure each one goes to the vet You want to quarantine them when they come into their house, different rooms. Ultimately, you should be wearing different clothing. You should wash in between. You don't introduce them right away. It's very important, and make sure you go to the vet, get your blood work done. You want to make sure that each one of them is healthy, so one's not sick and gives the other one something.
Okay, and then I just wanted to comment that when you do get two birds, that you can't assume that they're going to be best buddies. So you almost have to prepare for the fact that you might have two birds that just don't want anything to do with each other. So
right. I usually tell people, they'll say, well, I'm getting a friend for my bird. Well, I usually tell people that if you went to college, you were thrown into a dorm room. Did you like your college roommate? You're lucky if you did, but there's no guarantee that just because you like that bird and you like this bird, that they're going to like each other. So. All
right. And then, so someone had a comment about using a pressure washer to clean cages. How often do you use it on your large cages? Do you have to pressure wash them down?
This time I waited too long, but I didn't have help. And I need help when I'm doing it, because I've been diagnosed with some different issues that I can't push myself. They should be done ultimately every three months would be great. Taking them out, it's a lot easier. The longer you wait, the more powder builds up on the cages. Now, I can tell you this time, not only did I have to power wash the dust off, I also had to wipe the dust off, because even using that really strong power washer this close to the cage did not remove that dust. Wow. I was a little disappointed.
And you're also removing like the perches and the cups and stuff, all the nooks and crannies to get to all that stuff. You're not just wheeling the cage out minus the bird. You're deconstructing.
Right. And it depends. There's some stuff like your rope perches, your boings, your stainless steel toys, your acrylic toys, they can certainly stay in the cage and be power washed as well. But, if you get your pinata wet, you might as well throw it away. So, and then there's some stuff you have to take off and hand wash. It might be small. You might, if you use a pressure wash on it, you might just blow it across the yard and not find it again. So, yeah, so it does take a lot of time. 3 months, I would say, is optimum. I don't like to go beyond 6 months. And sadly, this time I did. I had a young gentleman that was helping me power wash, and I'm very proud of him. He went into the Army. So now I just got to find somebody else to step up.
Yeah, and Brenda just reminded everyone that to never ever use the pressure washer with the bird in the cage, because people have actually tried that, but it's actually killed the bird. So yeah, that's like more than a fire hose on someone. It's pretty it
hurts your foot. If you hit your foot, it's gonna hurt. Yeah. So that's another reason for our sleep room and sleep cages. Put them in there, they're safe,
While you play, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is like the temptation, if you're using a hand vac, like to not like the hose in the cage where the bird's there, especially if you got a small bird. I've heard stories about sucked in the.
Yeah, the birds should always be removed if you're doing any type of cleaning besides changing that paper. Yeah. So no vacuum cleaners, no steam cleaners, no pressure washers, nothing like that.
No shortcuts to that degree, because that's Right. So someone wants to know where you got your trees from. Where did you purchase those from?
Actually, my store.
Oh, from yourself. There you go.
Yeah.
So promotion here.
Yeah. If anybody's looking for a tree, with everything else in this economy, they have gone up sadly. But I'm pretty good at picking out trees for people. If anybody's interested, just hit me up.
What I love about the trees is they're all unique. Like you'll never find one that's exactly like another. There's always a little bit of a twist.
Right, and that's the problem with buying them sight unseen on the internet, because everybody uses a stock photo. So they show you, this is the tree, this is what a medium tree looks like. Well, that's not the tree you're going to get. And I can tell you that because there was a small one that everybody used the picture of, and it was a beautiful tree, and it was in my store. So I had the tree for sale, but everybody across the country was using the same picture, to get people there and then when they ship the tree, because they're so unique, they're not receiving the tree that was in my store. So you do have to be careful. So I used to enjoy going up to my distributor and spending the day digging through trees to find the perfect one for my clients.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot of digging there. That's pretty cool. Oh, and someone, so last question for you, because we're already we're already past our hour here. How much time do you spend with each bird one-on-one? Like how much time are you able to get in with them? Probably some days you have more time than others, or?
Well, because I am working from home, I spend a lot of time with them. I'm sure my neighbors think I'm nuts because I'll walk in here in the middle of the day and I'll put the music on and I'm dancing with them. You know, and so it's a lot of hands-on, or I might just pick one up to give them a kiss on the belly, and you know, I'm always talking to them. So I would say probably one-on-one, like if I'm sitting down, I'm going to call it snuggle time, but that's not what it is. That's the best word that's coming to my mind. Probably about maybe 15, 20 minutes a night. Sam's a little bit longer. Sam will sit with me for about 45 minutes after everybody goes to bed. But during the day, I'm constantly interacting with them, not necessarily maybe touching them, but talking to them, you know, giving them things.
So there's ambient attention and there's direct attention, and they both are beneficial to birds, right?
Right. They have to learn how to be birds. You can't have a bird become so dependent and want to be on you that they have to be with you all the time, because that's going to cause behavior issues. They're going to scream for you. They're going to pluck their feathers. You know, you have them as a baby and you're carrying around 24/7. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's a year old and you're not doing that, and they don't understand why, because that was their life. So you always want to build a little bit of independence. And I think my guys are all pretty independent.
Nice. And what's the stereotypical Velcro cockatoo? That's the one bird that seems to really need to have that ability to keep themselves entertained, right?
Yep. Yep. And that's why there's I believe that's why there's so many issues with them. So, and I understand somebody wanting to give a lot of attention to something that's new to them and a baby, but people have to realize you should pay just as much attention the first day as you do your 50th year with the bird. So.
Oh, and someone sorry, real quick, if you don't mind, someone wanted to know what is the name of your store? So we got to give that name out so they can.
It's called the Platinum Parrot. I do have a website, but it's more of a parking page. What most people do is they'll either contact me through the page, and my phone number is on there. They either call me, they'll email me, and then we'll go over what they're looking for. And it's one-on-one personal shopping with me and me alone.
Okay, there you go. That's where you guys can find those trees. Nice.
You don't want to?
Oh, now they're all waking up. They know the end of it.
Yeah, for some reason nobody wants to get up. I think because they were all napping.
All right. Well, I'm going to announce the winner of today's. We have a giveaway, like we always do, which is awesome. That's the best way to start the weekend, is with a free giveaway product for someone. And today's winner is going to be Ronald Wollenberg. You will be getting the new released foraging kit plus a product of your bird's choice. So congratulations, Ronald. Someone will be contacting you and seeing what size, what species of bird you have and all that good stuff. So that'll be coming to you next week, I believe. And that is all we have time for. Oh, look at that. Who is that? That's adorable.
That's Emma.
Oh.
She's usually, this is the one with the twisted neck. So she lays on her back a lot. So yeah, so this is how she does a lot of her cleaning. And let me see if I can get her to do this. Usually when I pet her in between the shoulders, where is she? She can do a little, see how she like starts chewing on things, just like a dog would start tapping its foot.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like she got her happy spot there. You're like, that's adorable. All right. So Lisa, you'll be on with us to give us an insider's look at the retreat that you went to coming up. That's our next webinar with you. In where are we now? We're heading into September soon, aren't we?
I think in 2 weeks, on the 26th maybe, or 23rd or something like that.
Yeah, the end of the month. And then next, just a reminder, the next webinar, which will be next Friday, will be usually we do it towards the end of the month, but we're gonna have them earlier. It's gonna be with Dr. Tolley. So it's gonna be Ask the Vet with Dr. Tolley, and I think that's it. Let's see. Oh, we gotta thank everyone for thanking us for being here, and Elisa, just thank you for being here as always. It's always a pleasure learning every Friday here. So
Thank you. Hi, Shelley.
All right. So there you go, you guys. That's how Lisa does her. She does her busy day. And yes, I think everyone can agree that we all are going to aspire to your level of cages and bird room, and it's a good example. So we can all have our goals, and that's one is to get a little bit of what you got going on there. It's a really good setup. So.
Well, thank you.
All right.
And thanks, everybody.
Have a great weekend. Until next time, everyone stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend. All the best to you and your flock. And until next time.
Bye.